Hi everybody, welcome back. And today's question is a 1995 Rover R8 214 SI a viable car to use as a daily driver? Because that's what I've been using it essentially for lately, since the idle control valve has been fixed. So we'll answer that question as we're on the way to get some petrol. Let's do an acceleration test from the lights when they decide to change. There we go. And when this Polo decides to move off, here we go. Can't go berserk obviously, but those of you who know the K series engine, which is what this has under the bonnet, it's a very free revving engine. So that's not even 3,000 RPM in fourth gear. Above 50, 60, still in fourth, and there's still like another 4,000 RPM to go. So it's more than capable of keeping up with modern traffic. The important thing with the K series engine is always make sure it's warmed up before you start revving it too much. Don't rev it over 3,000 until you've got the temperature to just under half on the gauge, which is what it should be, and that's what it's on now. And then when you're sitting in traffic, you're not uncomfortable because the seats in this are absolutely excellent. Particularly for your back, it's really soft and supportive at the same time. So Rover certainly knew what they were doing with these seats. Compared with the Allegro, the visibility is good in terms of mirrors, because by the time of the 1990s, they'd actually learned how to do car mirrors properly. So you can see out of these mirrors nicely, which makes parking a lot easier. Here we go on twisty roads now. Got a Peugeot up my trumpet, but you won't keep up much longer, mate. There you go. Easy. Oh, nice old V-dub coming the other way. It does handle really well, this. Steering's really light, the power steering makes a big difference. But goes around bends with just no problem at all. No body roll, feels really secure. And this is a nice little stretch as well. 60, that's second, third, just over 30 miles an hour. Fourth gear. 50. Under 60. There we go. In terms of the ride on this is probably the most comfortable car I've ever owned. The suspension on this is excellent. We've already talked about what it's like through the bends, but its party piece is how comfortable it is. When most cars have a jolt, this is a very, very clever cyclist. Just pull out in front of two cars that are going 60 miles an hour. Hope you've done your lottery this weekend, because your numbers were nearly up there. Anyway, what was I saying? Yeah, suspension over speed humps is fantastic, because we just live in a country where everyone seems obsessed with speed humps now, but this is a good car to have to deal with them, because they just cushion them so well. It's really, really brilliant suspension. Just approaching the village where the petrol station is now, so just slow down a bit. And it's quiet, it's refined. I don't have to raise my voice to talk to you when we're doing 60 miles an hour back there. There we go, see, I'm obeying the law like the good boy I am. Here's the petrol station. Filler cap on this is passenger side, so let's go and get some of the good stuff. Let's go down here, shall we? Because I need E5. That's what I use in this, E5, because it's better quality petrol, as I'm sure you guys all know. Right, let's fill up. If you look at the trip there, you can see it's 245 miles since I last filled up. The gauge is going down because I've just turned it off. It goes down slowly. It was reading just under half, so I could drive for a bit longer, but the reason why I'm filling it up now is because I'm going to Matlock tomorrow and taking this, so I don't want to have to go around having to interrupt the trip with a fill up, so I'm doing it now while I've got time. So let's see what's what, and we'll see any MPG figures I can give you. So I've just pulled into the car park of my local just to calculate the miles per gallon, and we're averaging currently just under 40 miles per gallon, which isn't too bad at all. And I imagine that might have been slightly higher if I'd driven it a bit longer. But yeah, not bad at all. And that's a good figure even today. I know that lots of cars will do more than that, but bear in mind this is a 30-year-old 1.4 16 valve hatchback from the 1990s. And that's still pretty good MPG. So let's take you on a little bit of a drive, just so I can tell you a bit more about what the car's like to live with. So what you'll notice as I'm reversing is the visibility is really good. You'll have to take my word for it because you can't see that, but the mirrors and the windows, they're all really well placed. One thing you do notice is that the clutch on an R8 is quite high, and that's not because this car needs a new clutch. It isn't. It's, or at least I hope not anyway. It is a feature on Rover R8s from this time that they do have a high clutch, so you do have to get used to that, but it's no hardship really. It's just driving the car. Once you've used the car, it's not really anything that is a hardship, to be honest. You do get the odd rattle from the trim because again it is a 30-year-old car, but I have had a fiddle with it recently, particularly around the dashboard. Just put my hand to give you some indication just here, and I might show you if I get the chance. Just around the instrument binnacle, there's a couple of screws that screw in the see-through plastic, and that can rattle, but I've had a tighten a bit recently, and that's at least made the rattle intermittent rather than consistent. And you can just hear a little bit of it there, but it's not really a lot to live with. It was worse than that, and if you just mess with a few of the screws, then you're okay. And here's the engine again on these lovely twisty roads. Woo! I love this car. And you don't have to drive a car very long to get a sense of how solid and dependable it is, and this car just feels like it could just keep going for a very long time. If you are looking to buy one of these, then my recommendations are look at the mileage. This has only done 63,000 miles, so not much at all for a car of this age. The main things you have to check any 90s car on is rust. So check the sills, check underneath, check the wheel arches, they can rust. Also as well, because it's a Rover K series engine, check the head gasket, so get it up to temperature. Make sure that the heater blows hot when the car's warm. Before you start the engine up, make sure that you check there's no mayonnaise in the coolant, make sure it's all the correct colour. And if you have one of these, weekly checks like the oil levels and the coolant levels and the power steering levels are all recommended, but they're very quick. A minute long job in total for all three of those, so that's no hardship to do that. And you should do that with most cars, because my 2009 Honda Jazz, which I suppose still technically is my main car, but this is being used almost more than the Jazz now, that nearly ran out of oil when me and Alice were on our way back from our holiday in Yorkshire. Luckily I was able to go to a Halfords and just put more in it. But it shows that even with your modern daily car, checking your oil semi-regularly is a good idea. This also isn't a great road in terms of smoothness, but this just laps it up no problem. If I was in any other car now, you'd just hear the bumps a lot worse and you'd feel them, but in this, just nothing at all. Soaks them up no problem. I'm not going to video the boot or rear seat space because I've done that before on this car. If you look back to my review of this, a few videos before this one, then you'll see that rear seat space and boot space is really, really good. And if you fold the seats down properly, you have to fold the base forward first, and then the vertical one. Sorry about all my technical terms there, but you can do that and you get a very, very good load bay. So practicality wise, it's pretty good, and you could fit 3 children in the back, no problem, and probably 3 adults, because there is the centre seat belt and it's got fairly good space in there. In terms of what I've spent on this car this year, I spent £1,500 buying it. I spent £210 taxing it for 12 months. Well, they put a speed hump in here, but feel how smooth this is here. Look, no worries at all with that, easy. And then I spent, what was it? I think it was just over, I think it was about 350 quid replacing the cam belt, the auxiliary belt, and the power steering belt, and the water pump as well. So all those have been done. Replacing the idle control valve and the plastic surround it screws into. That, by the way, is what regulates the idle speed on the engine. I did that myself, so that was, I think that was about £50 for the part. And then just the other day, I had a new rear tyre fitted on this because it was cracking, and that was £89 for a new tyre. So I've not added that up yet because there are a few more things I want to do to this car this year. There is the MOT coming up in a couple of weeks. I'll service this myself, so I'll need to buy more oil filter, and an engine air filter as well. And there's also some interior parts I'm going to buy for this car very soon, because the mats in it, there's only 3 of them, and they aren't genuine Rover mats, they're just cheap ones that someone's got off eBay somewhere, and they do the job, but they're not the right ones for the car. So I've managed to find a set of those from my friend Adam, who's got 4 Rovers. I mentioned already about him. He was the one that provided me with the new better wheel trims on the car, so he's very kindly dug those out of his collection for me, so I'll get those soon. And also a couple of sun visors, because one sun visor's got a tear in it, but getting that in is just 2 screws, so that'll be a very simple job to do. So that'll just spruce up the interior a little bit. I've spent £5 on the keyring as well for the car, which I'll have very soon. And the final thing is the headlining, which is starting to droop. It's not on my head at the moment, but it will be probably by the end of the year, so I'm going to get that done as well. And that then means that the interior of this car is completely sorted. It will be immaculate. Literally nothing wrong with it, apart from maybe a slight bit of fade on the wood, but it still looks good. I mean, you guys can see bits of the wood there. The bit that you can see is actually, I suppose, technically a faded bit, but it still looks very good, so I'm not going to worry about that. There's a couple of maybe some paint imperfections on the car that I could do, but there's no need really. There's no point, because it looks really good as it is. In terms of the handling on this car, I've already talked about how good it feels through the corners. Don't push it too hard, because obviously it will eventually understeer and give you some body roll. But it feels safe whilst also feeling fun. And it's one of those cars that it will wave a big placard above your face that's saying you're being a bit of a prat, long before it will actually kill you. See, I've got the windy bits here. Let's get it up to 50. And it's fine. And then you just dab and brakes. And the brakes respond really well. Yes, they aren't going to be quite as good as a car from yesterday, more than do the job for you. And that brings me on to the driving position as well. I've already said the seats are really comfortable, but the pedals are really nicely laid out. They're not too close together. I don't have very big feet, I'm only size 8, so there'd be no problem for me in any car really, but I get the sense that if I had bigger feet I'd still be okay with this. And changing down, that's my favourite gear change in this car I've just done there, changing down from 5th to 4th. Just really, really easy to do, really seamless, just goes in nicely. And in terms of reliability of these cars, we know the K-Series does sometimes get a bad rep for head gasket, but if it survived this long, the head gasket will have been done. And if you do all the checks that I talked about earlier on, it'll be fine. And you have to remember that this car was built by Honda. It's a Honda Concerto. And Honda know how to build cars properly. And that's why people talk about this Rover being an example of Rover's renaissance in the 1990s with this and the 600, because that was also built by Honda. And these cars I think are better than the Rovers that came afterwards because they're more solidly built, they're more comfortable, and you can just depend on them more. And values of these cars are starting to increase now. So I think this is a good investment as well for the future. Because it really is an appreciated classic, this. It's something that you can take to shows and people will look at fondly, but also then use it for the whole week afterwards for your commuting, your shopping, going to the pub, all of that. I do it for all of those things. And it's brilliant on the motorway. It just settles down and is really quiet. I said I'd show you the bit that rattles sometimes, and it's this here, this binnacle. So I think it's where the screws just under there join it into the top moulding there. But again, just a bit of attention with a screwdriver and that usually sorts it out. One more point I do want to make about this car is the environmental impact. Now, lots of people who've been taken in by the whole EV hysteria, when they're not burning Teslas, that is, are going to say, oh, I'm killing the planet with this car. Oh, you need to be in a more modern one. No. Well, think about the carbon footprint of this car. This is 30 years old. So all the mining and the materials that were used to manufacture it is long in the past. And I think if a car reaches this age, or 20 years, I can't remember exactly what it is, then it's offset the emissions that were done when it was being created. So therefore, you don't have to worry about that. Whereas a more modern car, if you think about all the technology that's in modern cars now, all the computer stuff and all of that, and in electric cars, all the lithium that's in the batteries, mining, that's a filthy business. So you've got to get those cars to 20 years old before they've offset their carbon footprints. But because I don't think a lot of these more modern cars are actually going to make it to 20 years, because of the sheer amount of technology that's on them, soon there'll be a problem. There'll be a big problem if it's taken in for software or something. The software could crash, or there could be a major malfunction with it, and it just won't be viable to repair it, so it'll just get scrapped. So I wonder how many cars that you see on the road all the time now are going to make it to the same age that this one's currently made it to. Because if I scrap this car, I'd be wasting all the emissions that were done when it was manufactured 30 years ago, and then I'd have to release a whole more amount of CO2 to get a new car, which would then I'd have to keep for 20 years to even get close to offsetting the carbon footprint. So that's the environmental argument with that. And that might be a contentious point. Some people may disagree with me on that, and that's fine. But as long as we're all respectful, and all nice to each other and open about opinions, not shouting and yelling and screaming at each other, then I'm sure we can agree to disagree on something like that. But it's something that you never hear about in the media, about the whole carbon footprint of these new cars. And an example that I know, there's a friend of mine at work, he's got 5 cars. He's got a classic Mini, classic Beetle, classic VW camper van, a more modern camper van, and he replaced his daily driver Citroen Picasso with the Skoda electric SUV. And it looked quite a nice thing, but it's let him down 3 times in the space of less than a year. So the charger, the flap to charge the car, that locked shut, so the AA had to crowbar it open. And then the second time it was taken in for a software upgrade and it crashed, and it just took ages to repair it, so we had to have a hire car in the meantime. And then something also has happened to it quite recently. He's only just got it back, having had it fixed for ages, and it's gone raw again. It's had to go back to the garage, and that's a modern EV. Now, I'm not saying all EVs are like that, but that's just one case I've heard. So the irony is he's had to be rescued a few times by his classic Mini. So he's had that at the same time that I've had my Allegro just over there, and that's not let me down once in that time. So I think that's definitely a victory for petrol and for older cars. Just something to think about, but it does make for interesting thinking, doesn't it? So just give you a walk around of the car before I leave you. Polished it the other day, so it does look pretty good now. Just need to wipe a little bit of muck off the back of it there, but that's easy. But yeah, this is more than good as a daily driver. If you get a good one, which I have, then there's no reason why you can't use this as your daily car. So hopefully I've persuaded you guys to appreciate these underrated but yet fantastic cars. So I'll see you guys very soon. Please hit like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you guys very soon in the next video. Look after yourselves, and a happy Easter as well.